tankers, welcome back to my videos. I am Blitz, and today I'm going over the ISU 130, which is a pretty rare tank destroyer to see nowadays at tier 8 matchmaking. However, it has hit the stores today, and it's a pretty fun vehicle. Now, as always, I'm going to go off into the statistics first, then I'm going to go whether or not this vehicle is worth the 7,500 gold price tag it has stuck on it. Now, starting off, this tank is 1,010 hit points, which is not a lot. Really, even for a tank destroyer at tier 8, isn't a crazy amount. Just to give you an example, this RHM about to be swatted right here has 1,100, and I'm even running the hit point buff, and it still only brings my hit points 65 higher to 1,075. Now, this tank also has a very poor view range at 266.1 meters. That's more like tier 7 medium tank view range, which is quite unfortunate because that means if anybody's going to try and flank you, you're going to have a very hard time spotting them quicker. Now, this tank has a very, very good gun, and you're going to see it, boom, 1,220 ammo rack on the 62 Dragon. That was great. But this tank has the 3,122 damage per minute, with penetration of 245 and dealing 460 damage per shot, which makes this tank have an 8.84 second reload time, which is really, really good. Not to mention, most people don't know this about this vehicle, but it has secondary AP ammo, which brings its damage up to 530 average, just lowering its AP rounds by, I don't know, about 30 mil of pen to 215. But it really just brings the damage up to 530, which just makes its damage per minute go right through the roof to 3,600 average. And if that's not enough, you got high explosive, which will bring your damage per minute up to 4,072. Now, pretty much the secondary AP rounds render the high explosive useless on most scenarios because I'd much rather have the chance of dealing 530 average and penning the tank over 600 and, screwing it up and not being able to pen them. So I usually do use the secondary AP round a lot. However, you can see I keep the same amount of AP rounds, both types, on this tank in my ammo loadout, so I actually like to run the secondary the most, though. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Now, one of the downsides of this gun is it actually has a very slow shell velocity, only at 870. And that is a little slow, but it's not unbearable. You can see it is quite quick, and if worse comes to worse, you can put on supercharger over the aiming time. Now, this tank also has 2.26 second aiming time, which is not bad at all. It's not great, but it's not bad. You can see you're able to snap shots with it because the dispersion is very good at 0.308. It used to be much worse, but they did buff the tank because it was just doing so bad statistically. And sadly enough, it's still doing terrible. It's sitting at a 49.85% win rate over the past, 90 days on Blitz stars, which is really just kind of embarrassing. And I don't know why it's that bad. The dispersion factors when moving also are pretty good at 0.12 over all of them, and rotating turret is pretty much moving the gun at 0.1, so that's not bad at all. Unfortunately, this tank has only 6 degrees of gun depression and 13 degrees of gun elevation. And when you combine that with a very poor aiming arc of 2 degrees to the left and 10 degrees to the right, it's very hard to actually snap shots in this vehicle if you do try to. Now, the turret traverse speed is pretty quick, but again, it's not a very big aiming arc, so it's not really going to make a difference, but it's sitting at 31.59. This tank weighs quite a bit at 47.29 tons, and it's not super slow. It goes 43 forwards, which by no means is slow for tank destroyers, but it's also not fast. And it only goes 12 backwards, which is really slow, which means that you're going to have a very hard time pulling back after you take your shots, so you might want to keep that in mind. Not only that, this tank has a very poor effective power to weight ratio at only 13.74, and the traverse speed is also not spectacular, sitting at 34.02. And the final thing is concealment, which actually is a very, very high rating at 31.8%. That's pretty much higher than most medium tanks actually at tier 8, which was surprising to me when I read that fact earlier to myself today. Now, this tank I like to run it aggressive because it has so much damage per minute. I actually out-reload that IS-5. I out-reload a Scorpion G with this tank. Not to mention, I have very, very good accuracy because they did buff it. You can see here, I'm just going to try and snap a shot into this Tiger. Now, unfortunately, that IS-5 rolls me for 470, but that Tiger P misses. We roll him for 501, which is a low roll. And I'm going to sit here, and I know I out-reload him because I just have this ridiculous gun that IS-5 missed, which means I am in the clear to finish off this Tiger P. Boom, we get the shell right into his lower plate, picking up 1450 damage after we finished off a full health tier 7 heavy already in 3 shots. Now this IS-5 is going to try and finish us off, however this tank, as I said, does have a pretty decent top speed, which means we're able to outmaneuver him. You can see though that turning is not the best, and that aiming arc is very, very small. Now I'm going to wait for this IS-5 to aim at someone else. I see him aiming, I watched him shoot, so now I'm going to pull out. Slam a shell hopefully right into him. Boom. 663 max roll. You can see why this gun is just ridiculous on average damage. It's just so fun to be able to pull out rolls like that. Normally, you know, it's 575, but because this tank has that extra bit of damage, you're able to roll out that extra bit as well. I'm able to snap that shell right into him. And you can see actually the aiming circle on this tank never really gets big, which is one of the huge benefits of this vehicle after they buffed it. Because this tank used to suck. I think it was sitting at a 47.85 win rate before they buffed it. And it's still 49%, but it used to be just much worse. So I guess it's a little bit better, but they really need to give this tank, in my opinion, just more aiming arc and more gun depression, and that would make it perfectly easy to run in battle. The aiming arc is so bad, though, you're not able to really use this tank very versatile. That is one of the issues. It's just not versatile enough, and I think they need to make it just a little bit more. However, you can see we've still picked up 2.8 thousand damage, and I actually picked this up in my first game. I only played 3 games in this tank. And you watched the first one I played on Alpenstadt, and you can see this is my 3rd one. And the second one I played was still 2600 damage, so this wasn't a bad game by no means at all. By any means, not no means. But really, I don't find this vehicle that bad, and for 7,500 gold, I think that's a bargain. It's only about 20 US dollars for it. Probably about 35, 40 Canadian, I mean not Canadian, Australian. But it's really not that bad, and it earns credits because it is a premium. It can be quite fun to run. I actually do run mine a little bit every now and then because it's a pretty rare vehicle to see on the battlefield. A lot of new players don't know what it is, and they'll actually think it has the 150 millimeter and be really scared of it until they realize that it doesn't. It actually has a gun that's deadlier because it can shoot 2 shells into them every time they shoot 1 into it. But really, that's the end of this video. I just want to make a quick little video on this vehicle, let you guys know my opinion on it and whether or not it's worth the price. But other than that, I hope you guys did enjoy, and I also wanted to thank you. We are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. We're sitting at about 925, 930 right now, which is just crazy. And we're going to hit 1,000 by the end of today, I really hope. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video. Make sure to join the Discord. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.